and welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, the podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wide the world over the platform they deserve. I'm your host, Ragland, and for today's episode, let's pull up to shore, dock by the bay, and listen in to a guest whose many years on troubled waters has led to his most successful endeavor yet. Today's guest is Georden Whitman, an animator, storyteller, and designer whose years of unique trials and tribulations has led to some phenomenal art such as the stunning indie animated series Port by the Sea. I became aware of Georden and Port by the Sea as he was hyping up Port by the Sea, and seeing just the amount of love and hard work that went into that pilot alone. I knew it had to be a matter of time before I just took the opportunity to get him on the podcast, and I'm so glad I did, because the conversation I had before you guys, it is absolutely sensational. I know you guys are going to love it. If you enjoy our guest, please make sure you support him with the links down in the description below. If you enjoy the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. Leave 5 stars wherever you can. You know, I see that stuff, you know, it genuinely warms my heart. And speaking of subscribe, if you listened to last week's episode, we hit our subscriber goal of hitting 2,000 subs before the end of 2024. And now it is down to the final 4. So, if you go to the description in the link below, there will be a Google Doc where you can vote on one of the 4 tattoo designs that will be inked on me as soon as I possibly can. So, if you would like to be a part in deciding what will be permanently on my skin, go to the description below, check out the Google Doc, and please put in your vote today. Voting will be closed on December 22nd. And look, if you want to go a little further with that support for this podcast, may I recommend you check out our merch shop at fourthwall.com. Link to that being in the description below. We have so many sensational designs done by some amazing artists, such as the fantastic Roshan Galaxy with the new logo that you see, and I think you would look phenomenal in that merch today. But now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast. Sincerely, thank you so much for taking the time, especially on relatively short notice, I must say. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, because I have been a fan of Port by the Sea for a good bit or whatnot. And in fact, before getting set up for today, I made sure to rewatch it again and whatnot. God, it is just... I forgot how good it was sometimes. I forget how good it is sometimes.
No, I'm glad. No, I'm glad you liked it. Like that's all we kind of want. It's just for people to like it and to sort of press it on. We're talking with like a few people right now. We're hoping to do a little more if they want to do it or not.
Okay.
So
I'm
that's
liking
the goal.
I'm liking the sound of that. I mean, honestly, with what you guys are doing with Port by the Sea, both with the initial the initial pilot itself, as well as what you've been teasing and introducing ever since then or whatnot, I am like, ironically enough, I am hooked, line and sinker to see what you guys are going to be doing with this kind of stuff. So it's really cool to get an opportunity to chat with you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. I mean, thanks for asking and reaching out. It always means a lot.
Oh,
and like it's always awesome to see people like put that effort in, right? And like and reach out and go the extra distance. So it means a lot.
I mean, I kind of get questions from like people all the time when it comes to like, you know, how'd you get such and such on the podcast? Or how'd you get to talk to XYZ or whatnot? Yeah. I'm just like, I reached out. You'd be surprised how many people. Yeah,
exactly.
It's literally okay. It's like, here's my secret. I sent them a message.
Yeah, exactly. It's all it takes, really. And like people are always so surprised, like, oh, like so I'd imagine they just like don't ever want to get back. It's like, no, like if it's a genuine message and like it's something that's like coming from a place of interest, of course they're gonna like probably take time to like respond or get back to it.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's you know, I've certainly had my times where I've sent the message and I've gotten nothing back, but that's also because
it happens.
It happens, and also like, hey, the person's probably busy doing a million other things as well. So
exactly.
It's like they can't focus on taking that time away. But like, you know,
and that's typically the case. Like we've been asked like multiple times and whatnot about like dubbing and subbing and stuff like that, and I was like, if I respond to each and every one of these, like I will not get anything done with like my day to day, and I'm just like I can't do it anymore. Like, and so it's like you kind of have to pick and choose sometimes, and it's hard.
That is extremely valid. No, trust me, I get that mentality. I mean, I with how many people that I do get a chance to talk to, especially the wide range of different people. I mean, you know, hate to brag on myself a little bit, but if you look at like the back catalog of people that both like you and I know, like for example, Dave and Ashley from Farfetched or whatnot. Yep. And even then, like people like that do incredible stuff, like Maxwell Adams. I had him on the podcast recently or whatnot. Like
I saw.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And it's always incredible to know that like I always feel honored and blessed, just like with you right now, that you're taking a little bit of time out of your day just to chat with me because why not?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Exactly. And I just like talking about animation and whatnot too. It's just a fun time.
Then this should be a fun conversation for you, hopefully. Yeah. I don't know how familiar you are with the podcast, or at least the format and whatnot. I'll at least go ahead and say, if you're concerned about like swearing or anything like that, my comfort level is the same as yours. So like, if a few fucks fly, they can fly. I'm not gonna be too concerned. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Just want to at least make sure. Again, I just want to make sure you're comfortable because this is supposed to be a nice, cool, casual conversation about the art that you're working on. What got you to this point? All this cool, incredible stuff. All the trauma. I mean, no.
All the horrid moments that led to this.
Jesus, goodness. But
so here's a fun fact. I'll probably bring this up on the podcast, but here is a fun fact that like I've gone over with people with like the whole Rooster Teeth thing. Originally, the pilot episode with Port, we were going to do like a joke that was like a giant like chicken was like eating everything like throughout a town and like destroying buildings, and it was gonna like grab like a set of like shark teeth basically to put in its mouth and then like start eating things. Would be like, it's eating our creativity as it like eat the library and the books, and it's just like a giant metaphor for like but I was like, nah, I think that's too tongue-in-cheek, and I was like, I'll walk away from it.
I think if you are saving that for a future episode, may I recommend you just do it, but don't have anyone like ideally like point it out. Like have it like in the background.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like you see obviously the giant library overhead or whatnot, or like theater or something like that, and just a giant crunch out of it while like Port and Umi are just talking about like, oh, we need to figure out where this next moon piece could potentially be or something like that. Like subtlety is the best policy. All right, Jordan, before we really get going, I must ask the icebreaker question of the podcast, if I may. Let's say you get to go to a desert island on your own accord. It's just you alone with your thoughts. You get to kick back, relax, breathe, get to really enjoy yourself for a little bit. With accommodations, you're not stranded on a desert island. It's like a little personal B&B paradise away from society for a little bit.
Okay, cool.
To make sure you don't go further insane on this island, you can bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you to help with whatever kind of headspace you want on this island. If given this opportunity, what would that one piece be?
It'd be World of Warcraft.
Oh, without any hesitation.
I've put thought into that before, and it's just like the reason it is because it's something that will never die and just keep going. And so I'm just like, I am perpetually set like with that, and so it's something that's like that's something that just keeps going. Like
and that leads me to wonder, how invested have you been in World of Warcraft? Like how much is it meant to you?
A lot. I mean, like I genuinely like I'm in a Mythic Raid guild, and like I have a fun time playing that game, and for a while I did not have a fun time playing that game, and it's like, but now again it's good. Like it's like I genuinely I've liked the changes they've done. So
that's good to hear. Regardless, I mean, to be fair, something like that could not last this long without not being good in some form or fashion. There's
always some charm there. Like there always has been like something like with charm, even like with narrative and like storytelling. I genuinely like take inspiration from too. Like
especially good stuff. Especially like when it comes to the community as a whole, especially when you find like the good people to like work with or whatnot. Like that's another part of that charm, just that online community aspect of it. But regardless, World of Warcraft, again, without any hesitation, that is your answer. You're locking that in.
Yep, without a doubt.
Then if that's the case, I cannot think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I am your host, Nathan Ragland. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. You would look fantastic in the merch that we have at the merch shop, fourthwall.com. Link to that is in the description below. And follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and most social media platforms at Postmod Art Pod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. is an animator, storyteller, and designer whose years of unique trials and tribulations has led to some phenomenal art, such as the stunning indie animated series Port by the Sea. Welcome to the podcast, Georden Whitman!
Hello. Hi there.
How you doing today, Jordan?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic now that I'm getting the opportunity to sit down and chat with you. I know I kind of said this a little bit ago, but Port by the Sea is an absolutely stunning opportunity a stunning series and a stunning concept that I'm so glad you were able to bring to reality and showcase to the masses. And I cannot wait to delve into that and so much more of what you've been able to have a hand in. But before we start talking about that, I want to go back just a little bit and learn more or less the origin story of Georden. What got you interested in art and animation and stuff in the first place?
Yeah, that's a genuinely good question. So I started back in high school. Is when I started doing art, and the reason I did was because also during that time frame, I became a director on YouTube for machinima.com. I did stuff for them, and I worked with Halo Machinima and all that, which is funny. It's we'll get to it, I'm sure, down the road with Rooster Teeth and all that. But it's but that was my start, and that was my origin with doing machinima and stuff. And I got money, I got paid for it, and I was a teenager, and I was wow, I'm making money by doing Halo stuff. But while I was doing that, I was this is so limited, and I was but I still like the creativity of it,
right?
But it feels limited in what I can do. And I was animation is something that's you can do anything. If you're smart about it, it still has limitations on its own. You can't go absolute nuts for every frame, but you can still tell almost any story and have people be immersed in the same way. And
right.
that's what started driving me towards that. And I went to art school afterwards and started to learn.
That's really cool to hear. I mean, it's insane to think in the first place machinima of all places was your start more than anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, yeah, you have a point by saying it feels very limited, but I also feel and you can attest to this in some aspect, I feel the limitations could sometimes bring out some of the best ideas when it comes to creativity or whatnot. Yep. Yeah, you can't have the coolest action sequence when it comes to certain aspects of Halo, but at the same time, that leaves more opportunity for friend interaction or one-on-one combat or something like that.
It taught me, and it teaches you in general, how to be very creative with not only what you do with the camera, but your space, how many characters you have moving, which then parallels an animation, right? It's you have to be very creative to not overload people or to not go too far, to be something that's just overly stressful and too much. You can have bits and pieces, but it's important to know pacing so people aren't losing their minds and pulling out their hair while doing it. And it's and that taught me that. And I feel a lot more people could learn from that and and take away from it's smart. It's better to be almost more kind of limited and knowing simplicity first, mm-hmm. and then starting to branch out and being able to push things.
There you go.
I learning the rules of filmmaking.
Exactly. I mean, it's a good very early, very rough place to do that kind of stuff, but it's the lessons are still there. I'm curious, how did you first even know about the machinima, and how did you first know about this kind of stuff in the first place? What got you invested in that?
It was probably Red vs. Blue. That is where it started. I watched a lot of Halo machinima stuff and a lot of Gary's mod too. A lot of the early Gary's mod stuff. And I liked video games too. And I played them for a long time, and then I was well, I kind of want to take my hand at this. I like storytelling, and I just want to I like filmmaking, and I stuck my hand at it, and it seemed other people liked what I was doing too, and then I got picked up, and I was cool. So that's all I needed to have that kind of approval, and then I want to just keep doing more stories.
I mean, I would like to hope that they, some people enjoyed what you were doing if you were making at least a little bit of money, no matter how big or small it was in the first place.
Well, just to be offered a contract with them, and then noticing the work I do, and they're hey, do you want to be one of our directors and sign us on, sign your soul over, which it was, but I was 16, and also I wasn't I don't want to own this down the road 20 years from now. I was I'm not worried about it. So yeah, it worked out.
I'll say you were 16. It was the style at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh goodness, I can only imagine that especially at that time with how machinima even worked in the first place, and eventually what would evolve from that, the people that would come from that era and the creativity that would spawn from that more than anything else. That's insane to even think about in the first place.
And that's right. My first million views was doing machinima.
Oh, and then, really?
Yep. And then I bailed away from it, and then I was like, let's start over from scratch again. Won't that be fun? And like, that's what I did.
I'll say, do you remember the million views that you got? Remember like your biggest video or whatnot?
Yep, I do, and it was the one that I put the least amount of effort in.
I
And I was like, wouldn't this be stupid if I did this? And I was like, yeah, why not? And then like I did, and I was like, of course people like this one more than anything, because it
I
was just me being silly.
I feel like every single content creator has that story of like, oh yeah, the thing that I didn't put that much effort into is the thing that people know me for the most. Like, come on, man.
Yep.
When did for you go from that those first little taste of like art and that general love in the first place to a passion and truly wanting to make it your career? Like, when did you realize more or less that like what I'm doing is cool, but like I want to do more. I want to
Yeah.
be an animator.
Yeah. I had the thought of being like, this isn't gonna be like a lucrative career like down the road. Like that. I was like, it's a fun hobby. And like I was like, it's either I start doing like a let's play channel like everyone else did, or I think about something that is more like kind of streamlined. And I was like, animation is something I feel like people don't really think about when they consider a career option. And I was like, that's sort of what like kind of dragged me to it. But I was like, but I do not know how to draw like at all. And then
Right.
that's when I started picking up like art classes and stuff, and I went to art school, and I was like, well, gotta start somewhere. And so
Everyone's got to start somewhere. I mean,
yeah.
I think I can.
I'm like,
Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, I'm like, if anything, like I'm committed. Like when I start something, like it's like I
Yes.
don't stop until it's done. And it's the same thing, like even with like Port, right? Like it took us like 4.5 years to like do all of it, and it's like, but me and my partner like did like about 50%, and then the other people we brought on like helped bring it to life. But like that the work we put into it is just like, I was like, I'm not stopping until it's done. Like
Right.
it's you have to have that commitment, and a lot of people like it's hard for people to like keep going, you know.
I wholeheartedly like know exactly what you're talking about with that kind of stuff. I mean, for God's sakes, this podcast should be a testament to that more than anything else. Like, at the time that we're recording or whatnot, I don't even have like 2,000 subs. I got like a good 10, 20 videos out of almost 200 that
Yeah,
have like over 1,000 views or
yeah.
whatnot. But like, like you say, whenever you commit yourself something, you just go all in with that kind of stuff. And I've been
Yeah.
going all in with this kind of stuff, getting again incredible conversations with such incredible artists such as yourself.
Yeah.
Um, I
No,
mean,
it's great. Like it's great to work to and stuff too. So it's like I hope, and I genuinely will hope it pays off as well for you, and hope
I'm
it continues to.
I'm hoping so too. I'm hoping so too. I mean, at the end of the day, like if it I have said this before. If it gets to an opportunity to where I can like make this more or less my career in one form or fashion, that would be phenomenal. But the fact
Yeah.
that I even get to do this in the first place and get to have these conversations is enough of a blessing on its own, and I'm
Yeah.
taking it with every single stride, no matter what. Um,
Yeah.
but enough about me. We're here about you. Art school. I appreciate. I was able to see some of the stuff that you're able to do when it comes to art school. You went to, correct me if I'm wrong, Ringling College of Art and Design or whatnot, or Ringling College of Art and Design.
It's
I,
clown school. I'm just kidding.
I mean, to be fair, you hear Ringling and that's the first thing that comes to mind. I never heard of the college before, but I knew it was a clown college. Although I wouldn't be surprised if it had clown classes.
Yeah.
I can
No,
only,
it's like it's an art. It's a good art school. It's oh well, it was. I don't know about it anymore. A lot of people would probably disagree with that now. But I mean, like during my time there, I genuinely had like a pretty good time, and I mostly thank like my peers and my teachers. Like when I was there, like the friends I made there and the teachers, I think were like the things that like stuck with me the most. Like not necessarily like, the system and like what you're paying to go there. That's a whole other conversation. But like
yeah.
the school itself in that environment, I did like, and I enjoyed.
I think when it comes to just anyone that has ever gone to college, at least in today's society, I think the last thing they're thinking is,
Yeah.
oh my God, the pay is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like today I think it's just a different world. I almost think like it's better, if I had to give any advice to like artists and stuff out there, it's just like it's better to just like take individual classes with people that like you respect or look up to, or work you're familiar with. Take those individual classes and you'll learn more because you're being guided towards an area that you already are interested in, rather than like just this like everywhere all over the place and you're spending more money than you'd like, you know? Like
Yeah.
so do the specifics and take figure drawing classes, and that's all you need.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like figure drawing is like It's where you learn the most.
I mean, I saw some of the figure drawings that you had on your website that you had. And
Mhm.
it looks absolutely phenomenal. Like, what was it about figure drawing, at least for you, that like led you to that aspect of it? Like, what intrigued you about again drawing figures?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a required class like that we did have to take.
Yeah.
But I knew it was important because it's like with any character designer, etc. Anatomy. It's like if you don't know anatomy, it's like you're not going to be able to draw a not only a strong silhouette but also just a strong structure.
Hmm.
So when you're animating it, it's like if you don't have a strong structure, it's like you're making something harder on yourself. And so that's really where it comes from. And I knew anatomy was super important, and like I'm glad like the first year I was at our school, like I was no good. And then second year, I changed my medium a little bit, and it
Okay.
clicked a lot, and that's when it started like really helping.
Well, I think a good way you were able to showcase more or less like those strong silhouettes or whatnot was your student film that you were able to showcase, Sir
Oh
Knight
yeah,
of Nowhere.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even know about this film until I started doing research on you. But getting the chance to watch
Mhm.
it, I love that short. It is so like it's so sweet, so wholesome, but also like it's
Yeah,
it's very like expressive with what it's trying to do. What was the
yep,
inspiration for Sir Knight of Nowhere?
yeah. It was Night of Nothing at the time, and then
Okay,
it became Nomad of Nowhere. That's where its origins was.
okay,
The But Night started at the same time Port did. It was my
okay.
senior year, and they both those ideas came to me like pretty simultaneously. I wanted to do something with a mute protagonist. I always kind of have, and I still want to. I want to finish that story genuinely. But I just wanted like a mute protagonist, and I was inspired by things like Wally was a huge inspiration, Charlie Chaplin, and things like that. And I started like doing research into like and again, Machinima, weirdly enough, is like a huge inspiration for it because back when you were in Halo 3 and stuff like that, you'd use the bobblehead to like express yourself. And I took a lot from that, but I was like, but instead of like doing that, I was like, I use the eyes, like where it's like you can do so much with the eyes themselves, and push that to say how a character is feeling in a given moment without having to actually say it. And so like that's what's led into that, and having like the eyes do all the expressions and the work for you, like with the whites.
I mean, it's the eyes certainly does help. I think you could attest to this. As someone that appreciates the mute protagonist or whatnot.
Mm,
What can't be said in the words or whatnot, the way that is expressed through body language in one form or fashion, could say a
yeah.
million words. And I love, especially with Night of Nowhere, with what you were
Mm,
able to showcase with that. Like whether it be like the simple like just loving of the butterfly to like the fear, the panic when it gets to like close to the climax or whatnot. Like you
yeah.
do a really fantastic job really showcasing the expressions, not just with the night, but like every one that you had, whether they did
Yeah.
talk or otherwise. Like I can only imagine for you, like that it might be an extension of the figure drawing, but like that body language, it seems like no matter what you seem to be doing, that seems to be a very like strong thing that you love to emphasize with your
Yeah.
artwork that I've noticed.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think like posing and lately I've been diving more into like hands and mouth shapes. I think are like my new kind of like push and interest.
Mm.
Trying to like hone in on that more. But like yeah, it's all relevant. Like everything like kind of comes back around to like, and that's what's so neat about animation. It's like everything culminates, and that's what makes it so difficult. Is it's just like every single thing has some part to play that's important. Like whether it's background design and paint, whether it's character design, storyboarding, like editing. It's just like it's there's so much part of a pipeline. It's like in doing having one person knowing every single spot to like make sure it hits well. It's like, and don't get me wrong, like I look back at that short and I'm just like, this is poo poo doo doo, and it's just like because like I've grown, like
Right.
it's not good for me anymore. But like I still appreciate it and I still like it, and like I go back to it, but it's like now I've grown so much since then.
It may not be the creme de la creme when it comes to your work or what you've been able to
Mhm.
produce on, but you can at least see the foundation or like the
Yeah.
basis of what eventually led to everything else.
Yep.
Like I can only imagine once you're able to showcase that short, like some of the cool opportunities that may have come your way. I imagine one of those opportunities, kind of like what you hinted at, was how it more or less transformed from Night of Nowhere to eventually
Mhm.
no or to Nomad of Nowhere or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatnot. Oh, sorry, Night of Nothing or
Yeah.
what?
No, you're good.
One form or fashion, it led to
Yeah,
Nomad
they're
of
more or
Nowhere.
less the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like how did it evolve into obviously Nomad of Nowhere and such?
It was pitched as Night of Nothing with the company, and then they were developing a medieval thing with flash gits at the same time, and they said we can't have two night like related shows, but we really want to do this. Is there any way that you can like alter it in any way? And I was like, in the back of my head, I had another show which was called Kingdom of the West, which is like a Western show,
Okay.
and I was like, if I could just like kind of mix them a bit and like kind of like have them mingle and with the setting. And that's sort of what I did. And so it became No Matter Nowhere. And I was like, I'll make it like a desert region and I'll give it purpose for why it's a desert and not a forest anymore. And it's the antagonist's fault for making everything just a barren wasteland.
Right.
And it worked. It harmonized, right? And like that's sort of what made it evolve into a western is just so it's the same story. It's just like different setting. Like that's all. Like
It's just the Night of Nothing Western AU. That's all it is.
yeah, it really is. Like it's a western AU, and like I even like I have like a small comic excerpt where like I imply that like because I'm doing like Night of Nothing comics again. Like I'm working on them like off to the side. And I imply where it's just like that AU existed and happened and everyone died. It's like that's the ending. I was like it didn't work. Like it's like it failed.
Right.
And it's just like and then the night one is like you see sort of like the true timeline and the more other events, but there's still parallels like that you'll see like between the two.
Right. I mean, I can only imagine for you, and again, this is the part where you can divulge as seriously as you want or whatnot. It had to be more or less like a unique experience with Rooster Teeth, really trying to get that vision out there in one form or fashion. Again, I say unique, it doesn't necessarily mean good or bad, but it had to be a unique experience getting it to life and then seeing how it more or less unfolded.
Yeah. No, it was. And it was nice to have like at least a few people sit down and like appreciate like the story I wanted to tell, and like they also had like they could see it, right? Like they could see the story, they could see the potential, and they wanted it to genuinely happen and do more with it. A lot of them still want to like wish they could do more.
Yeah.
But it's like but things that unfolded like happened, but now I can it feels nice to be able to like basically I'm pretty confident it's like I have the IP in my hands now, so it's
Good.
like I can just continue it and do what I want.
I mean, I will say I do remember when Nomad of Nowhere did premiere or whatnot. I remember watching at least the first couple episodes of it, and like I could certainly see, especially watching Sir Night of Nothing, I could certainly see the parallels. And I could certainly see like where the vision could have gone or whatnot. But like obviously hearing your experience at Rooster Teeth and how. Again, for people that don't know or whatnot, how for a moment it basically crushed your creativity, which
Oh yeah, I almost like quit like art, like in general, like after it, like I was like, I don't know if I want to draw anymore.
I like it, that kills me to hear or whatnot. That like something that that was initially spawned from something that you loved and something that you really cherished, like how it more or less made you even question, do I even want to be in this field in the first place? Like, I can.
No,
I'll say I can only.
It genuinely
imagine.
hurt. Yeah, it genuinely was like not a good time, and it wasn't like something because it's like watching your kid being killed. Like it's like it really is like it's like animation for me, or at least my stories for me. It's like they mean more to me than like I don't want to say than most people like typically put into their work because that's not true. Like it means a lot to like everyone, but it means something to me in a way that's like. It's really like one of the few things you could do to make me angry is like doing something to my IP. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like a
valid.
something like I was like that's like the one of the few things like I don't really get angry at people too often. Like it's like it takes a lot, but it's like but that was like the one thing that I was just like no, a line was crossed and this is not okay and here's why.
Yeah, I mean, like, it does also lead me to a very interesting question because you mentioned the storytelling aspect. And I noticed that was something that you seem to emphasize, at least what came to your bio or whatnot. Like,
Yeah.
I believe in your bio you said something how you want to more or less like evolve how storytelling is when it comes to like a Western audience or something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
How important is like the storytelling aspect for you, and what is it for you to like? Why is it so vital for you to make sure that you are able to express it a certain way?
Yeah, I wish like I had the answer. Like it's a. I mean, I kind of do. It's like to me, stories today, especially in entertainment and television and animation, don't really carry the same weight and morals that like stories used to. Like there's not something that you walk away from where you're like, wow, I learned something and like I'm gonna apply that to my life.
Right.
Like, and like I just saw an image recently with like Miyazaki, and I was like, he gets it. Like Miyazaki made like a comment where he's like, these aren't characters, they're people. Like
Yeah.
when they're writing them, and I was like, yes. Like I was like, that's the point. You're taking away something and you're applying it from your life. Like, and a lot of my stories have to do with like things that I've experienced, and like it's exaggerated, of course,
Oh,
but
yeah.
like, but it's put in a perspective that like it's not like out of the it's not too far out of reality to be like, wow, that something like this could happen that's like similar, and you can learn from it and then like see how the characters handle it and then apply it to your own life. And it's like, and I did that a lot growing up too, with like not only animation but like entertainment in general. And I just don't see that a lot anymore. A lot of things I see today just feel like people are just like, here is the show, this is the thing, and like, and here's what happens, and I'm just like, but that doesn't like where is like, I don't know, the connection. You know what I mean? It's like, where is like there's this weird like it feels like it's strictly done for monetization and profit rather than it's done for something that's like a purpose. And it's like in storytelling needs purpose in order to like really sell itself. And I feel like that's what's missing.
I mean, there are so many. I can already think of so many shows or whatnot that are talking about like how you're mostly saying or whatnot, just like, here's the show, here's the things, have a good time, give us your money. Like, no, like,
Yeah.
But there are also, especially in like the indie animation world, there are so many incredible people taking the opportunity to really emphasize that storytelling aspect and really telling a genuine story in one form or fashion. There's a pair of guests that I brought on recently. They go by Eggbug or Eggbug Studio, and for those who don't know, they're the people that are behind the web comic / animated series Cat Bird Dog. And like what they are doing with their storytelling is like they are taking the time to tell a very intricate, very human story, very interesting story about like, feelings and emotions and like, what exactly is love? How much do you love like XYZ or whatnot?
Yeah.
Like they're taking the opportunity and the time to tell that story. Instead of just like presenting out there's like, here are 3 quirky characters, you're gonna love it, buy the plushies or whatnot. Like I appreciate when people are thoughtful and taking the time to really like try to tell a story, and especially with what you're trying to do, especially nowadays, which we'll talk about in a second. Don't worry, I promise. But like I love how you go forth and like, again, try to tell the story, not tell the audience what the story is. You try to tell the story and let the audience more or less absorb it.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say like I certainly saw it with Night of Nothing or whatnot, but I mean like I think you can probably attest this more than anyone else, but like how you want to tell the story and how the audience perceives it or whatnot, like I can see how vital it is for you.
Yeah. No, it's like, it's super important. I genuinely just want to give sort of, I guess, people like, I like telling stories too that like reward people at the end, right? It's like I like telling things where it's like if you were able, like, and giving breadcrumbs for individuals, that's like, if you pick up on these pieces, like, and by the end, like you'll know what it is before like it happens. But that feels good because like you it's more like a mystery that you figured something out rather than like being blatantly in your face where it's like it zooms in on a character that's like, oh, this person did something, and it's just like, no, I want like small subtle things that like but are enough that like people can go back and be like, oh wow, it really was like there, or like you can keep like digging in. Like a lot of people, I guess an example is like, I mean, a huge inspiration for me is like Edgar Wright and like how he directs and stuff, where it's like you'll see something almost in not every frame, but like in scenes from shot to shot that like it the way he guides like the audience and what's happening and what will happen with foreshadowing, it all plays out in a controlled environment. It's all like everything is very much like it's thought out, and like, and that's sort of what I try to do with my work too. It's like I like everything being thought out. It's like why we want Port to be like a limited series if we make more. We want it to be like 32 episodes like max. And it's like, but I have everything planned out. Like, it's like, I know how it starts, I know how it ends, and I know like the major beats that like these characters run into along the way. And like, I just don't see that a lot right anymore. Like, I don't like, especially in animation, it's like a lot of it's like, all right, how can we get 20 seasons of this? And I'm like, no, I just like, let's make something impactful. Like, let's make something that's like, that's just good, that you can absorb, And that like in a great example of like that success is people are like it's like Arcane, right? It's like it's a weird example, but Arcane's a great example of it because it's like it feels human, it feels real, it breathes on its own, and it's like and people are like, oh, but yes, Arcane is like so expensive and blah blah blah. I'm like, it number one, it really isn't like when you compare it to like especially other live action shows, but it's like it cost them I think 250 million to do all 18 episodes of Arcane and. Meanwhile, it's like Disney's Snow White movie coming out cost 260 million, and that's 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So you cannot compare that. Like, and like, an Arcane is like a masterpiece. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, it has so many great like moments, and we need more of that. Like, we need more things where we sit down, you know the ending, you know where it's going, and it's important to have those endings. Like Port. One of the themes in Port is about like why things need to end and like why endings are important. And so like that, I'm hoping to drive home that sort of like having like double points in one, right? Where it's just like proving the point that like endings are something that like it sucks when they happen and it sucks to say goodbye, but it's important to have them or else like things go very, very wrong and bad.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was gonna say like another like first off, I love the Arcane poll. That is a great example of it. My girlfriend got me into it. We streamed season 1 recently. And I'm about to just binge watch season 2 with her sometime soon, and I don't know if I'm emotionally ready. But like like you said that, and like another good example, at least in my eyes or whatnot, is what Glitch is doing with the Amazing Digital Circus.
Yes.
What Glitch and Gooseworks are doing with the Amazing Digital Circus.
Yep.
Like, there is the potential there to do like hundreds of episodes in that weird, unique world or whatnot. But the fact
Goose doesn't want to do it.
Yeah,
like Goose wants a contained story, which is like that's what's important. And like people are like, no, keep going. I'm like, no, don't keep going. I was like, understand your limitations and knowing like what's best for the audience. Like it's just like sometimes like endings like it hurts, but the reason it hurts is because you like it so much. You don't want to turn it into something that's like you don't like it anymore, and then you're just angry. It's like. That defeats the point of making entertainment, of telling a story.
It hurts so much when it ends because you invested so much into it and you put a lot of love and passion into this series, whether you're someone who's worked on it or someone who watches it every single time they drop the new episode. Like, it's going to suck when episode 9 gets here and there's going to be no more, at least like mainline stuff or no more stuff when it comes to Amazing Digital Circus. But you know what? I'm going to enjoy it because I had a great experience every single time.
And it's something special, right? And you can always go back to it too. It's like it's not like it's going anywhere.
They're not.
The other thing too.
I say they're not maxing this thing and getting rid of it after a year.
Well, yeah. So like that's the other thing is like then you have like services that like kill a show like after 1 season, 1.5 seasons or whatever. And I'm like, can you imagine how frustrating it would be to like walk into a library and like pull a book off the shelf? And then like you get like halfway through and then like all the other pages are just empty.
Yep.
And it's just like that's not a story. That's not a book. Like it's just like you have defeated the point of like what you're making. And so like I don't know. I'm a huge advocate of like finish what you start and know what you're investing into. Right. It's like know what you're buying and know what you're getting into rather than like this whatever's going on right now.
I was gonna say I literally have a meme that eventually became a shirt on my merch shop that is my Mr. Moneybags character that I have sometimes doing the little Sonic, alone on a Friday night pose or whatnot. Yeah. I have written on it like I want animators to work less hours to like I forget the exact phrasing, but basically it's basically what you're talking about. It's like I want animators to be able to spend more time to tell their stories all the way through, and I am not joking. It's like I want them to be paid more to work less to tell their stories all the way through, and I am not kidding.
Yeah.
That's
all it is.
It's absolutely insane. But with all that in mind, I think that's probably a good motivation for you when it comes to at least the newest story that you have presented to the world, and that is this incredible indie anime series, Port by the Sea. Now, I know you kind of teased it a little bit whenever we were talking about Sir Knight of Nothing. But how did Port of the Sea or Port by the Sea become a thing? Like what inspired it in the first place?
It used to be called Port of the Sea, which is funny you say that. It's like that was the original title, and I changed it because Port by the Sea makes more sense because it's some people have picked up on it, some people haven't, but it's like the title in it of itself is like a play on the characters' names.
Right.
So it's like Port, of course, is the main character, and then Umi means the sea in Japanese, so it's Port by Umi is the title basically.
I'm just
It's
now
a
realizing that because I did not realize what umi
Yeah,
means.
so umi means sea in Japan,
Okay.
and so it's like it's a play on words of them kind of sticking it through together, and that's like where that title kind of came from.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are like, "Of course, a port is by the sea. Like, where else would it be?" And I was like, "Someone didn't watch the show." I was like, "Someone didn't even open this video yet." Um, but it's just funny. Uh, but yeah, that came to be at the same time as Night of Nothing. Me and a few other friends. You might know Kevin Temmer. I don't know if you do or
Yes,
don't.
I interviewed him on the podcast. I'm still good friends with. I still chat
Okay,
with him here
cool.
and there.
Yeah. So we talk like every day. Like we went to school with each other.
Okay.
He and Charlie Parisi, like two friends of mine, we were at a table and we were coming up and like spitting out like Port by the Sea basically because it was something I wanted. Like I had a dream about the show itself, and I was like, I really want to like push this into something, and then we all sat together and kind of like brainstormed some stuff, and like that's how it kind of started.
That's incredible to hear, and again, a nice little connection or whatnot. Shout out to Kevin, obviously, fantastic
Yeah,
artist on his own accord, doing incredible
yeah,
stuff now, being an animator at Glitch, which is
yep,
amazing.
yeah.
But
And
that's
we're all very close, and like it's this weird little circle that like keeps happening.
all these squares make a circle. All these.
Yeah, pretty much.
But like that's incredible to hear that like again that's how more or less the start of it. Now for people that may have even no idea what I'm even talking about in the first place when it comes to Port by the Sea, how would you describe it for people that may this is their first introduction to it for one reason or another?
Yeah. So it's about two kids who are kind of sailing the seas, and they've broken the moon into pieces, and those pieces have like kind of spread throughout like different major capitals of the world, and they have to pick up or repair the moon basically before an ancient titan named Tiamat floods the world and ocean, and he's like the Poseidon of the world basically, and like he's set free from them doing that. So
I mean,
it's
it's certainly a unique way to really introduce a little concept more than anything else. It's like
yeah.
these two kids are just seemingly just struggling to make it by on the sea or whatnot. Yeah, they broke the moon.
Yeah, yeah, they caused a cataclysm and like realize like their transgressions has consequences and like devastates them as they go.
I mean, it's certainly a unique concept. I love like just hearing that alone, and it leads me to think right off the bat. One of the first things I loved when I was watching the short is just kind of the mythology that you more or less like
Yeah,
built for this world and whatnot. How important was it for you to kind of develop this mythology, and where was it more or less like based
yeah,
out of? Because I feel like this wasn't something that just randomly was just like, oh, you know what, this would be cool. Like I feel like this is
yeah,
based on something.
yeah. Again, so it's like kind of came from a dream, and like
Okay.
that's where I picked up on like some ocean deity or something trying to flood the world and ocean, and I was like, that makes a interesting premise, and I was like, how would I go about that? And then I realized, like, I started just piecing things together where I was like, well, like, what would be like the main source that would cause that? And I was like, well, the moon itself like controls the tides like on our planet and whatnot. And a lot of people like I like putting like small scientific facts in, but then making them like unscientific, right? Like it's just like you can find the parallels, but then you can completely like break rules afterwards.
Right.
Um, and for me, I love a lot of like Greek storytelling. I like a lot of like the Odyssey. It is very much like I consider it like a modern telling of the Odyssey. It's a journey from like kind of home and back, and picking up pieces after yourself. It's literally about picking up after yourself. And these two kids end up breaking the moon. The first episode, like the real first episode, would go into like how they do it and like the outcomes and all of that and the tragedy behind it. And then it would go from there. I've had like a lot of inspirations though, like in terms of like other media and content. Gurren Lagann is one. Wind Waker is one. I mean, anything nautical, really, like everything from BioShock to One Piece, like everything. And yeah, in the Odyssey, and that's sort of where it starts, and started growing and piecing together like the mythology. I've always loved like even like in early Dragon Ball and stuff, like having animal people and stuff like that. But I wanted to like take it up a notch and being like, well, why are there animal people? And like in these titans that you see at the beginning are very specific for like what animal people you'll see.
Right.
I mean, I can kind of go into it anyways because we have, but it's like each one represents sort of what they brought to the world, which is like you have mammals, you have reptiles, you have sea creatures, and you have avians, like the birds. And so those are like the four primary like that's what makes up the world for the most part, right? And then anything in between is like what you'll see like different kind of couples, right? Like how do you make a turtle? It's like you put a sea creature and you put a lizard, right? It's like and that makes a turtle. And so it's like that's how these different kinds of humanoid like beings kind of like come to be and play out. And like that's it all kind of plays back to the Titans and like in what their role was at the beginning.
Right. Like honestly, like that having that mythology just being like the first thing that we see, especially when it comes to like the pilot alone or
Yeah.
whatnot, like is a really good way to like set the tone of like how this series is gonna be. Like, yeah, there's gonna be some fun, there's gonna be some whimsy or
Yeah.
whatnot, but also realize like some stuff happened and there's a reason why we
Yeah.
are here. Like
Yeah.
this isn't just, oh look at these two
Yeah,
kids just having
I
a
didn't
fun
want
time
like a
by the
regular
sea.
pilot. I was like, I want to like grab the audience to be like, I want to do more, and there's a lot more behind this than like what you're seeing in this pilot. But this pilot is just like it's its own moment in time. It's its own small, simple story, and it's like, there's a reason why we didn't have the main antagonist in it, right? It's like we just wanted it to play its own like beat so it like if we don't make more it's like you can still watch it and be happy with it, right? Like you don't want you can make up in your mind how it plays out. um
Absolutely. I mean,
but yeah.
I was gonna say like at least with the pilot that you did showcase or whatnot, like you did a lot. You guys, like your crew as a whole, did a lot of fantastic things with it. Like you really gave us a taste of what to expect. You really gave us like a full embracing of like the kind of unique world that we were in, diving ourselves into, kind of the wild and weird possibilities. What's considered normal, what's considered not. I mean,
Mhm.
beautiful, like gorgeous atmosphere, in one form or fashion, and like a really good blend of like action and comedy, more or
Mhm.
less. Like I have to say, right off the bat, one of my two favorite characters is just Jolly Roger, the little crab
Yeah.
creature, and like what he is able
Yeah.
to bring forth to the table, more or less.
Yeah.
Like, how important was it for you to make sure you had that, like, just more or less a good blend of all these unique elements? Because, like, again,
Yeah.
you could have just basically just said some of these certain things. You could have just presented this stuff in like a slideshow or if you really
Yeah.
want to. But like the way you were able to present it and find that good balance, I can only imagine how much of a task
Yeah.
it was to really tell it.
Oh, it was. Yeah, there's a lot of things too where it's just like there's like moments too where they're like, oh, they should have shown like what happened with like the goldfish and all of that, like in a flashback or something. And I was like, I wrote that, I just don't have the money for
Yeah,
it. Like it's just like you have to animate all of that, and I just didn't have it. So we did what we could with what we had, right? It's like we talk about limitations and whatnot, and it's like, and I think we overall we did a solid job with what we had, and tried to show as much as we could, given like the limited resources. But it's like if I had more, I would absolutely be able to show more than like kind of tell, right?
yeah.
Um, and that's yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. I one thing that sorry,
No,
I
you're
don't know if my
good.
partner was coming out.
No, you're good. You're good.
One thing I mostly just wanted to do though is just kind of like set up again that story and give that vibe for people like coming in and tuning in and being like there is more to this and like they can piece together a lot before it happens, right? Where it's like at the very beginning, like when you learn about like the Titans and all that, you see a flash of the three cards at the end, and you see the fish getting impaled with a piece of moon, like in those three cards. So it's like it tells you the ending before you're even there. People just don't like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You come back to it, and then you're like, oh, that does like make sense, and like there's more to it. I think it's like one of those things that I like people like digging and realizing things as they go.
This is definitely gonna be one of those series that people are going to want to rewatch more than anything else. Like
Yeah,
just go back and be like, okay, here's the storytelling there. There's a little moment right there, like the
yeah.
subtlety or whatnot. I'll be upfront and honest, like watching that the pilot and then watching your little the Glitch X announcement, trailer or whatnot. I did
Mm.
not realize until I watched the Glitch X things that the kids are the reason why the moon is shattered. Because
Yeah.
because
And it implies it. Like the pilot, there's moments where they're like, "What happened isn't all our fault," and it's like, and that's them implying like they did something, right? Like, and they look at each other when they hear the shadow, and like they grimace, and it's
yep.
like, it never explicitly says it, but it very much like says like, "No, they did it," right? Like it's just like they're the ones who messed up, and
I mean, it's moments like that, whenever they get Bonnie back or whatnot, like back to
Yeah,
her normal form, and are about to bring it back to the adventure, but just don't
yeah,
mention the moon piece. Like,
yeah, yeah,
something is up, you just weren't sure
yeah,
what, and then seeing that gorgeous glitch X like announcement thing with like the way that you like basically made it that the what's the word I'm looking for, like the mythological drawings like you had for like
yeah.
the pilot or whatnot, like
The intro, yeah,
yeah, for the intro, it was absolutely wonderfully done.
yeah,
And like it makes me appreciate again, like what we were talking about earlier, like the storytelling beats you like to have, like
yeah,
how it's not just like up front in your face,
yeah.
this is what's
And
going on.
there's things, and even in that like I'm surprised there's some people that haven't picked up on yet, where it's like the last frame is ankle sitting there with a
Yes.
typewriter and pages, and it's supposed to imply where it's like the intro typing for the pilot is like that's him writing it out, like it's like he's the one who's like telling this story and this narrative like as you dive deeper into it.
Yeah, which is I another point, I love Ankle. Ankle is
Yeah, yeah, no, he's one of my favorites, and he plays a very vital role as it goes. But he
like
is, I knew I had to have someone important in the pilot, and I was like, Ankle should probably be in it, and like whether it's for a short amount of time or not, but he should certainly like be there.
like saying that out loud, I will say it's odd that like my two favorite characters are like the two polar opposites, because you have this
Yeah,
happy, cheery crab, and basically the embodiment of what
and
looks like
death.
the harbinger of death.
Yeah,
but
yeah, pretty much.
like it's really cool to know that like even with like the pilot and just these little things or whatnot, again it goes back to like the storytelling thing that we were talking about earlier, like you're really giving the audience to kind of like you're basically giving them like the whiff of the smell of the pie without actually giving them a slice just yet,
Yes, exactly.
and like it's really impressive to see like what you've been able to do with that kind of stuff. And I can only imagine, especially seeing how people have flocked to this series in the first place and shown that love and support, it has to be surreal knowing that there are people that truly want more of this stuff, that really want to
Yeah,
see more of this stuff.
yeah. No, it's just nice to see that like I haven't completely lost a touch yet, I guess. Like it's just nice to see that like the way I've always like formulated it too is like if you write what you enjoy, like right, it's like if you write the things that like you want to see, others will typically like want it as
Yeah.
well. And that's always kind of worked for me for like with writing and whatnot. And then again too, it's just like my dialogue and whatnot. Don't get me wrong, like I need to improve like on actual like script writing. Like I'm good at structure and I'm good at like pacing and whatnot, but like dialogue and stuff is something I can certainly work on.
Yep.
And other aspects as well. And again, like we wrote that pilot like 5 years ago or whatever, so it's like a lot has kind of changed like since
Yeah,
then. So
just a little bit, just a few things here
yeah,
and there in 5 years. I mean, I
but
mean, I was gonna say, to be fair, I totally relate to that because I'm actually helping my co-showrunner Tipsy J Hearts with her indie animated series, The
mhm,
Evil Little Thing, which is what
yeah,
this little guy is based on right here.
yeah,
Um, but like that's one thing that I've certainly noticed. It's one of those like I have the idea of like how I want the story to go, and like I know how we can get to like point A to point B. Go
yeah,
from, in this case, port to port or whatnot. But
yeah, yeah,
like getting the actual individual dialogue and making it sound human is the
yeah,
thing that I struggle with
yeah.
sometimes.
No, it's not easy. It's definitely tough at times, and I try to always like be like put myself in their shoes, right? Like and being like how would I react to like given this like information and like what would I do?
Hmm.
And it helps like most time, but then sometimes it's just like again like you're working in like a constrained like you have to work from this time to this time and like
Right.
you have to make it work or else like good luck.
I mean, even then, like the performances that you're able to get with what you're able to present, I love the casting that you had for that entire pilot and just everyone's
Yeah,
little bit and little part. Again, like even just like Jolly Roger's like little like noises that
yeah,
he would make or whatnot. It's always just absolutely adorable, and I
yeah.
cannot wait to see like what other silly situations that
His little
yeah.
Pillsbury Doughboy noises a little. Yeah. As you
So
poke his
cool.
belly and he throws up and
um, Um, I am curious though, because obviously the pilot is out there, and people, if you have not watched that pilot, please do, because it is so like I am not over it. I'm not being hyperbolic. I am not over exaggerating. It is a fantastic pilot that you all need to watch it probably more than once to get all the storytelling details into there. But do you have a personal favorite moment or a personal favorite like scene from that pilot that you look at confident and be like, this is just like one of the best parts
yeah.
of it. I cannot get enough of this.
I do like Ankle a lot. Like I do like that whole
Yes.
sequence. Even though that was like the curse sequence, like when animating it, is because like something was always happening within that sequence. I was like, why is the graveyard cursed? Like it's like we just kept like having animators jump around, and I was just like, it's the only area that this happened with. But it's like it's funny. That, and I also like when Port is like chewing out the shopkeeper and being like, "You're a freak!" Like he's just like, "You're a monster's freak." As like it's just this old lady that's like senile and doesn't even know where she is, and like he's just chewing her out like some maniac.
I mean,
But
I mean, especially with like the expressions, not just with that scene, but also like with the ankle scene, just in general. Like, especially at the tail end, after Port says like, after Ankle says like his fine thing, just Port's like just infinite frown face or whatnot
yeah,
is a beautiful expression. I appreciate y'all putting that forward.
and the straight cut to like where he is afterwards. It's like that's like a joke I genuinely wanted to like keep in, is that like as he's just disappointed, and it's just like it's always fun to think like, how do we get from this scene to the next, and to just like cut immediately with Port in the same face, same position,
Yep.
but like you're in a scene change. And I was like, I love that. Like I just think it's a fun way to get where we're going.
Those cuts are always like genius when they're executed right. Just that
Yeah.
like that this thing like is so much of a burden onto you that no matter what surrounding you're in, you could be in the happiest place in the world and you're still just
Mhm. Yeah.
I can't nail it as well as Port did. I mean, it's absolutely incredible, like what you guys were able to do, and I can only imagine, especially with kind of the excitement around it, and obviously from what you're sounding like, the ideas that you have behind it. I can only imagine what more you guys could be having planned when it comes to Port of the or Port by the Sea.
Yeah. No, we have a lot planned in general. Again, I want it to be like a limited series, preferably.
Mm-hmm.
If I could do it anyway, like if my magic dream like came true, it'd be like a limited series, or like another option, an avenue we might go down, depending on like whatever happens, is doing instead, like if we had to kickstart it, right? It's like if I had to, I was like 32 episodes. There's no way you're gonna fucking just kickstart that.
Right.
Like it's, I'm like that's unrealistic. So an option would be to do 4 kickstarters for like movies, basically, like specials,
Oh.
and doing them like 90-minute like films, and doing
Okay.
like four, and each one would represent like each Titan, basically. So it's like as it goes down the road. So it's
Okay.
like that's basically how it's paced too, where it's just like you start with one, then you move on to the next, and then the final. And so it's very sequential. And I was like, but it needs to be long enough for the journey to like make sense. I can't just have them like in a 90-minute time frame be like, let's go to here, then here, then here. It's just like it's too much.
Right.
And it's like you need to like ease into it and give it that space and time. So like I think that would work too, is like if we treated it like as 4 films and like go that avenue.
Yeah, we're not treating this like Steven Universe or anything like that. We're not rushing
Yeah.
rushing to our climax in like 90 minutes or whatnot. No, like we're
Yeah.
like again going back to the storytelling aspect. You have an idea how you want the story to flow in one form or fashion, and honestly,
Yeah.
like whether it be the 4 specials, which honestly genius idea of having each special based on one of the titans that you have presented or
Yeah.
whatnot, or just the full 36 episode run. I certainly hope you get to tell the story in
Yeah.
one form or fashion because
Yeah.
again, I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not over exaggerating. You have something special here. Like you
Yeah.
have,
Oh,
and
thank you.
I would say like you guys like with what you were able to work on with just the pilot alone. Like there's a lot of incredible, a lot of like a good foundation for what could be like a truly incredible journey for anyone that watches it.
Yeah.
Whenever you get the chance to tell that story.
Yeah. And no, and that's the hope, is like I just want something that like people can kind of like latch out to and want again. Like again, like I grew up with like a lot of shows where it's like that's why I like Gurren Lagann, right? It's like it's 26 episodes and it tells like a story start to finish, and like it escalate, like it keeps going and going and going. And you have lows, you have highs, and like but it knows where it's going and how it wants to get there. And like that's why I like that series. It's like Gravity Falls kind of feels like that too a little bit, like despite like some of the bumps and whatnot. But it knew its ending, it knew where it wanted to go. And I think like almost every impactful thing was like that. Like Over the Garden Wall has it, right? It's like there's like 10 episodes, and it's like it has its start to finish. And I just think like something about the storytelling, we just need kind of more of it, and there's just not enough at the moment.
Yeah, it's incredible what gets to happen whenever you let your storytellers and your animators and stuff tell the
Yeah,
story to its fullest without
yeah,
any sort of cuts or bumps along the way.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
saying, people, just saying, creatives up there in big Hollywood,
yeah.
just saying.
To be fair, I do think there are sometimes where like some creators like kind of go a little over ambitious and they're like, I want to keep going forever. I'm just like, no, like let's just like be a little realistic here and like tone it down and like I I'm thoroughly of like I think it's important like on both sides too, like where it's like to the first thing I always ask anyone, and like because I've gone over pitches and stuff like with other people and other creators, so I was like, they're like, oh, here's like the world, here's what it's about, and I was like, cool, how does it end? Is like
Right.
every time I ask that, and if they don't have the answer to that question, I'm just like, then like what are you doing? Because if you don't know where it's going, it's like your audience isn't gonna like want to be along for the ride because they're not gonna know where it's going either.
You could present them like the future of animation. You can showcase them like the coolest world possible and give people like the most immersive experience that they could possibly have. But if you have no idea what's going to be at the end of the road, no one's going to want to take the journey in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, again, that's why it's incredible to have some of like the short form series that we had both talked about previously and what we just mentioned or whatnot, because you can see the clear and definite end, and like, okay, this is why they're on this journey in the first place. That's why you want to
Yeah,
get invested in these characters and see
yeah,
where this thing's gonna go.
yeah.
So, I
And
mean,
that's one thing I try to do with storytelling too. Is like you typically end where you start, or it's like even import like even in the pilot we kind of do it where it's the first thing you start with is with Bonnie and whatnot chasing them, and then it ends with Bonnie and that resolution, right? Where it's like you don't necessarily expect it to like kind of come back around based on their like what they're looking for, but everything plays out right. It's like you pace it out accordingly, and even like at the 2/3 marker where it's like the first third they go into the candy store, and then at the 2/3 marker they go back to the candy store. It's like everything like harmonizes and comes back to itself at the end to have like a payoff.
yeah, it's almost like a weird like infinite symbol in a way. Like they
Yeah,
find a way to loop back
exactly.
or whatnot.
Yeah,
Sometimes multiple points will match back up, so it's more like a
yeah,
DNA strand or something. But
yeah,
regardless, um, I mean, I imagine you've probably been able to see that, not just with what you're trying to produce, but so many other stuff. I know, like for example, like you're having a hand right now in being a background artist for the incredible Far-Fetched series, which again,
yep, yeah.
shout out
What's
to
the
those.
poster right there?
Yeah, poster right there. Shout out to the incredible guys that did
Yeah,
that. Like,
I was just talking to them last night too.
there you go.
Yeah,
I mean, I can only imagine, like, especially with some of these unique worlds that you get to have a hand in, both the ones that you create for yourself and help out others or whatnot.
yep,
Like, again, it's cool to get to play around in those worlds and see those worlds, but it's also
yeah,
cool to know that, like, for a lot of these creators, if they have that end goal in sight, it's gonna be a fun journey to watch their stuff no matter what.
yeah. No, for sure. And even with like Farfetch and stuff, it's like I'm like their lead background designer and painter. And what I try to do there is I try to like implement color and paint into their narrative, like, right? And like trying to like sell it like in a way that's like a great example is if the colors start at the beginning of the pilot and they're like pretty normal, right? It's like the poster that you see right there where it's like a lot of pinks, like hues and like whatever their basic color palette is. But then the second that like danger or whatever occurs, everything goes like stark reds and greens, right? And you have like hard like shine to like really sell the fact that it's just like, okay, you're in the horror now, right? And it's just like, and then when they get out of the horror, the colors come back. It's like pacing like that and timing using colors rather than using like a story or beats. You're using colors to tell those beats instead.
It reminds me of another guest I previously had on the podcast. Guy, his name is Andy Gardner Flexner. He
Mm-hmm.
worked as a lead colorist for Amphibia, and then worked
Yep.
on Owl House for the last season of it. And like just with Amphibia alone, whenever I was able to interview him because he was working at Amphibia at the time, seeing kind of the color differences, like when it comes to like on that show alone, when it comes to like very simple scenes or whatnot, or like very serious stuff like inside like a certain cave or like in battle sequences or whatnot,
Yep.
it really tells a story on its own more than
Yes,
anything
it does.
else.
It's very important, and that's why I love like the color design and stuff in Amphibia and Owl House. Like it's like, and it shows. Like it's like that stuff is super important and also needs to be thought about, right? It's like those also play a role in your storytelling.
Absolutely. I mean, I can only imagine for you, like, especially seeing all these different examples and being able to execute it in your own form or fashion in one way or
Yeah.
another. I can only imagine how excited you must be to really go forth and tell this story.
Sorry, can you like say
No, no,
you pause for a brief
I
second?
saw that lag for like a quick
Yeah,
second or
yeah,
whatnot.
you're
But
good.
I can only imagine how excited it must be for you to go forth and really tell this story if you're able to.
Yeah. No, I genuinely hope I can like and just tell it in the way that like we're seeking to and trying to make it what I aim and aspire it to be. Like I have a very vivid and clear picture in my head for like specific beats and moments and like why the characters are doing what they're doing and how they grow from it. Like it's a coming of age story at the end of the day. Like these two kids go through a lot and they learn what it means to quote unquote be an adult and also like bad parents. And so it's like it's a very big I don't know. I feel like it would resonate with like a lot of people today for the story that it wants to be, especially with kind of where it ends up and how it finishes.
Like the more you talk about like what you have planned or whatnot, the more excited it makes me to see what you're gonna be doing with this kind of stuff. Because I was, like I said, I've already fallen in love with the show just based on that pilot alone. But like every little bit that you're teasing right now, it's just like if I had the wheelbarrow of cash, I would give it to you so you could do whatever
Yeah.
you need to get this thing done.
Well, we're hoping we're talking with a few people at the moment, and we're hoping that someone at least is somewhat interested in like taking that leap. I guess one like I guess like our little selling factor is like we did pretty well, like even view count wise for like a channel with 0 subscribers
Yeah.
and like not really trying to like advertise it. Like one of the big things I'm a huge fan of and proponent of that's worked for me ever since I started Machinima is I was like, if people like it, they'll tell each other about it. I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, I don't need to like advertise it if it advertises itself, and that's always been something I've been a pretty big strong advocate for, and it's worked out every time so far. So it's like it's worked out with Machinima. No Man of Nowhere hit like #1 trending on its first episode, like and then on top of that, it's just like this did pretty well for a channel that doesn't even have like subscribers, and
Yeah.
so it's like I don't know. I think there is something to doing that with narratives.
I mean, here we are, like 10 months, at least 10, 11 months after the pilot's premiered, and you're inching ever so closer to a million views when it comes to the pilot alone. Like, if
Yeah,
that doesn't say something, I don't know what does.
yeah,
Um,
no, for sure. And like a lot of people are like, oh, it's not like Digital Circus numbers. I'm just like, there's a lot to say about that. Where
yeah,
it's just like statistically too, where it's just like if it was statistically similar, where it's like with my 0 subscribers and how many they had going into it, it's just like they are actually pretty close to like how they performed. Like it is similar in terms of like growth and how much spread it had and how much people watched it.
yeah.
But people don't really thinking that way. They're like, oh, if it doesn't like explode from with like an established fan base, like then it like doesn't. And I'm just like, that's not how anything works. It's like you have to grow, otherwise, like you can't do anything. Like
If X doesn't perform the same way as Y, that's never gonna live up to the expectations of Z. Like, no, just
yeah,
people are being creative. Let them tell their
yeah.
creative stories. Enjoy and watch it and love it.
People focus too much on numbers rather than just kind of I don't know, just enjoying something for what it is.
Exactly.
And by the way, it's just like I love everything that has done numbers, and I love things that haven't. Like it doesn't matter. Like it's just like it. You just have to just find what you enjoy. I guess is all
Exactly.
that it is.
Well, for this next question, if I may, let me give you at least a few more numbers, if I may, and give
Yeah,
you more or less what I like to call the dream scenario.
yeah,
Let's say I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags with that wheelbarrow of money that I mentioned earlier. And I come
yeah,
up to you and like, look, Jordan, what you have been able to do, like throughout your art career as a whole, is absolutely sensational. And we know that there is more there. I mean, we've heard you talking. We know that there's more there. You need that extra push, a little extra platform to get you to that point.
yeah,
We have access to everyone and anyone, whatever industry possible, and more money than should be possible. We really should be making sure that the animators are, compensated. They're able to get, healthcare and all
yeah,
that kind of stuff that they really need.
yeah.
That they're currently still fighting for, as all this time. Hashtag still stand with animation.
Yeah.
But
And
right
my
now,
partner's in the union.
there you go, there you go. But right now, we are focusing on you and you alone. If
Mhm.
given this opportunity, what would be the dream Georden Whitman project, and why would it be not even 4 movies, like 5 movies or 500 episodes? No, it's not gonna be 500
Yeah,
episodes. You already have your plan in mind, but like, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
what would be the dream Georden Whitman project?
It would probably to do, I guess, both Port and Night and like finish those stories. Like that's all I kind of want to do right now is like just finish what I started, and then yeah, just like I want it to be a limited series, like 32 episodes, and then just like really have a budget that can make it look nice, right? Like just have it look and animate it accordingly. Like if I could go with like any studio or whatever, I'd probably do I don't know, whoever animated that Scott Pilgrim series is probably like who I'd want to
Oh
go with.
yes. Oh my god, that would be
Um,
great.
but yeah, like something like that is probably what I would like aim to like achieve for quality and standards, and then uh, yeah, just tell like a monolith of like an Odyssey, right? Like I just want to like tell a linear story and then just have it out there. Like my goal at the end is like I'm gonna be rich from this. Like it's just like I want, don't get me wrong, it's like for the sake, like if I'm pitching this to a company and I do thoroughly like believe like based on like our return, like we've done like a small amount of merch and made like a nice chunk back, like from like not entirely like what the pilot was, but like a nice chunk to be like, wow, I think like if I actually tried, like it would probably do really well. Or if I had the money to keep doing more merch. But like from a business standpoint, like I can assure them that like it would make their money back. You know what I mean? It's like I can without even like blinking, like I can tell them that like if I were to make like port like in its entirety, it would make their money back like without even worrying.
Well, there you go. I mean, honestly, if that's all that you want to get done or whatnot, like again, who are we to argue? I mean, we've gone through this whole entire discussion talk about what you would like to accomplish. I mean, why
Yeah.
not? I mean, I know we talked about like port by the sea, but like especially with what you kind of tease with certain Night of Nothing or whatnot. Like I can only imagine if you're given the opportunity, what kind of story you'd want to tell with that one, especially with that like we also discussed the mute protagonist aspect of it, like
Yeah.
the amount of wild stories that could come out of that concept alone. I'm excited to see if you're able to do some stuff with that.
Yeah. No, and it's the same like scenario. It's like I had the whole thing written like and stuff
Okay.
even at Rooster Teeth, like everything like had its purpose and reasoning, and it still does. Like everything like had its foreshadowing and reasons to set up with the main antagonist. And there were some aspects that like Nomad did that I was like, I'm gonna change that. But like
Yeah,
for the most part, it still was gonna like kind of hit the same ending and same notes. So
absolutely. But sadly, we gotta get down from the dream scenario. We gotta get back to reality, and I'll ask the ever so generic question: where do you hope to see yourself in, say, 5 to 10 years from now?
um, if I guess in any scenario, I'd hope to be making these. I guess like and to finishing them up. If not, like either illustration or just something pretty stable. Like honestly, this industry is looking a little weird right now, and like
Just a bit, just a bit.
uh, I just kind of want something a little stable and to just make a living, and then so I can keep making more. Like that's all I want to do. It's like I just want to tell stories. Like I don't really care how it has to happen. I just want to keep doing it.
I mean, if doing more of just what you love is what you want to do, and the shorthand future, I mean, who are we to argue? I mean, look at what you've been able to accomplish beforehand. I
Yeah,
mean, especially with again like the trials and tribulations, like the highs and lows of like really getting invested in art in one form or fashion to almost losing that love and all that different aspect. Like
yeah,
just thinking back to your art journey as a whole, does it amaze you more or less how far you have been able to come along as an artist?
yeah. But I'm also kind of like stubborn. Like it's like I'm also like there's just a part of me that's just I don't know what it is. Like it's like this weird instinctual part of me that's just like this is like what you need to be doing, and like I just listen to that voice, I guess, like and keep going. Like I genuinely I like it, I enjoy it, and it just feels important. I don't know why exactly, but it's like it feels like something I need to keep doing.
I mean, I totally get that mentality more than anything else. I mean, hell, again, I'm stubborn too. It's
Yeah.
all this other. I totally get that mentality. But honestly, if that's seeing how far that stubbornness has gotten
Yeah.
you to at this point, I think it's been more than worth it.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's and the way I phrase it too is I'm like it's like a marathon, right? Like
yes,
you don't want to sprint, like you don't want to walk, you want to just keep it like a pace, right? And so long as you're taking those steps every day, you make it, right? It's like this is the same thing with our pilot. I was like it's going to take forever, but like so long as we just keep doing it and like eventually we'll hit the finish line, and we did. So it's like that's what it takes.
absolutely. As we start to wind down the interview, I just have one last question I want to ask you. Obviously, you are deeply invested in art in one form or fashion. Again, we're going back to the stubbornness that we're
Yeah.
talking about here. Um, how important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
Uh very. and I'm deeply concerned with like art in the United States.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't think
You are
art.
preaching to the choir, but go on.
Yeah, I don't think art is very. Not only is it really not respected here, but I don't think it really has a home because we never really built a culture to like make it a home. What we did is like we brought in multiple cultures, right? And we mix and mash them, which is a great thing. And but we need to like really lean into that more. Like we I feel like we're kind of tiptoeing away from that, and we're like kind of segregating cultures rather than like finding this strange mixture of all of them, and telling unique stories from different standpoints, and ways to learn. Like I stand from like write what you know, and I think there's a lot of that like weirdly in art too, where it's like I think that like inspirations, etc., like it all comes from things and aspects that like your interests have brought you to in life. And yeah.
I'm gonna say this for me personally. I don't think the issue is that we didn't develop a culture. I think the issue is that we made it a business. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong. We all gotta make money. We all gotta
I mean,
eat somehow or whatnot. But
art has always been a business in a way though, where it's like we have like back in like even oil paintings and pointillism, right? Like they would like the rich people would bring you in, and like you'd make their portraits every day.
Yeah.
It's like that's what your job was. And it's like, and people are like, oh, I wish I could go back to that time. And I'm just like, no, you don't. You don't want the disease and stuff.
No,
It's like, but it's like, I I do think that like that kind of stuff is still important. And like I think the issue with now is like we're trying to convince ourselves and pretend that like a lot of these executives and higher up and the people like that are making these things are like that they are responsible for what art is, and we need to start moving away from that and start
yes.
looking at like artists instead of
Yeah.
others. Like it's high time that we start looking at individuals rather than
Conglomerates.
yeah, conglomerates and people that aren't artists, right? It's like there's so many decisions that happen even in shows today where it's like, my son loves the color purple. I think we should make this character purple. And it's like, that's a stupid suggestion for no reason. And it's like, but that's what they think. Like, they think that like, that's how it works. And it's like, but it's not. Like, art is like, it's so much more than that. And there's, funnily enough, like, there's a song, I like musicals, like, sorry, but even not sorry.
I was like, don't apologize here. Trust me, you're in the same boat.
But there's a song in the Willy Wonka musical that just like literally goes over like the exact feelings of an artist of just being like you don't see it, do you? Or it's just like you can make something out of nothing. Like it's like you can it's more important than dollars. It's like you when you die your money doesn't stay with you. Or it's just like these stories and these art and like these impacts that they have on people that resonates like throughout time. And it's like and that's like so much more impactful than anything you could do like economically speaking.
I think I slightly misspoke. When I meant to say is we made art for some people, they made art a business first. When at the end of the day, it should be a cultural capstone and a way for different cultures to be able to translate their stories and connect the community.
And it's so weird where it's just like even like the Disney CEO is like our stories need to stop having personal messages and then like instead like focus on like a broader. I was like, what do you think storytelling is?
Yeah,
I was like on a base level, what do you think every story that's ever been told is a message, like in some way, shape, or form? Even Shakespeare, it doesn't matter. Like I looked at that and I was like, this dude who's like calling the shots just made a statement on like what storytelling is as someone who just like and it was the complete opposite of like the definition of storytelling.
And that's why we should probably support other ventures such as some indie animation like, Georden with Port by the Sea. But I will say, when it comes to your point, just as a whole, I think that is wonderfully worded, if I do say so myself.
Thank you.
That is all the questions I have for you, Georden. I've already showered you with Lord knows how much praise at this point, but I'll shower you with a little bit more because it's my podcast. I do what I want. Now, like I have been gushing about the entire time, Port by the Sea, I cannot get enough of it. The way you're able to tell that story, and especially, talking to you right now and seeing like just how much you invested in the storytelling there and how much you've really how much time you've invested into like telling this unique tale in the first place. It's something that is all that I always love and admire with any creative, let alone indie animators, because I know, especially with talking with so many creators on here, how hard it is to really get to that point, like having that incredible story and having this unique tale, but it's hard to really take that step. The fact that you were able to do it, like, I cannot help but commend you for it, and really you and your crew being able to put out such a fun, fantastic, unique, intriguing tale. Like, it makes me excited for what's gonna be next for you guys, especially getting the chance to talk to you right now, hearing about your entire story. Once again, take a shot every time I say this phrase, but the trials and tribulations you've gone through in order to get to this point. Like, again, the rise and the fall, the love and the hatred, like, to get to that point where you're able to be in a comfortable place to tell the stories that you want to on your own terms.
Yeah.
With whatever limitations you have to work around, the fact that you're able to do it, I cannot tell you how much I love and appreciate that stubbornness, but more or less that love and that passion that you have for this
Yeah.
stuff. And again, I said it before, I'll say it again. It makes me excited, not just for Port by the Sea, but whatever you're going to be doing next, because
Yeah.
knowing that love is at an all-time high, and that passion and that determination and that stubbornness is right there. Like,
Yeah.
again, it makes me excited knowing that whatever you're going to be putting forth, you're going to be putting as much love and detail into it, and truly trying to tell a story, a truly wholly unique story that is going to be exciting every single time to watch. The long
Yeah.
and the short of it is, Jordan, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for all that you've had to go through to get to this point. It is noted and it is appreciated. I appreciate what you've been able to do, and I cannot wait to see what's next. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And generally for all of that. I think I mean, I wouldn't be doing without words like that, right? It's just like I genuinely like it helps, right? Like, it's like the hearing things like that and seeing people's like want and yearn for the same things that I want, right? It's just like it's an equal interest. It genuinely means a lot, and it's something I hope to keep, I guess, providing people. Like, it's just like that's all I want to do is just keep providing, not only for myself but for others too, right? It's like I just want to, yeah.
It's a good thing to aspire for, and I know I'm one of several, hopefully a whole lot more after the fact, that love and appreciate what you're doing, and we want more as well. We cannot wait for
Yeah.
more. I mean, obviously we'll wait for more. We're not trying to rush you, but we cannot wait for more. But if people want to potentially see more, or see for the opportunity for more, and want to find a way to support you and the crew, go ahead and plug your stuff for the people at home.
Yeah, so you can find me on probably Blue Sky more now than anything. Like,
Yes.
I've made that transition over to Blue Sky. The only thing I do with Twitter now is I put like thumbnails of my work to be like, hey, go look at the full thing over on Blue Sky to incentivize. And yeah, that's primarily where you can find me. Other than that, you got my YouTube channel, which I think is just my name, Georden Whitman. And you can watch anything that we make over there. And like, yeah, I'm pretty simple.
There you go. There you go. Do you have any final words before we sign off?
I guess like the funniest thing probably, like, if for anyone like watching or listening in, is just like seeing like the start of this with like the sun being bright and everything in, and then like now it's completely dark. It's like, look, this is a storytelling moment. Look, it's just like as everything like gets darker as it progresses. It's just like much like my stories. It's
See, I noticed it. I didn't know if you wanted to point it out.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I just like,
this is why I have
think
my
that's
light on and my ring light
Yeah.
facing towards me.
I think that's just a funny little thing to like, I don't know, it adds to it. I think it does. So
Subtle storytelling, people.
Yeah.
Subtle storytelling.
I planned for this. You don't even realize. But I guess that's pretty much it. I guess for anyone that's aspiring out there, is just do your best. Try to do the research. Like, we didn't dive into a pilot that like just because we felt like it. I've had like a lot of experience. I've had a lot of like knowledge of the pipeline, and like we knew the work that it would take. So it's just keep all that in mind. And one thing that I say multiple times now, I attended like a talk, I think, with Alex Hirsch, and he mostly said, it's like the first thing you make is going to be your worst thing. And I kind of agree with that. Right? It's like the first thing, because like you're going to get better, like no matter what, like you're always going to improve. And so it's kind of a fun thing to do, is like you keep growing and looking back and just getting better.
Absolutely. With
To bring
that,
it back to like to World of Warcraft, it's just like the more you play, the more you dive in, the better you get. And so we'll bring it right back around to where we started.
once again, it's like the infinity symbol, like you were
Yeah,
talking
exactly.
about. With that, all I've left to say is for the people at home, if you can, please pay your artists.
Absolutely. Yeah, please pay your artists. We paid everyone on our production. We tried to do our best. And I deeply think it's one of the only people that didn't get paid was like me because it's my own work.
That's
But
dedication and love and stubbornness more than
yeah,
anything else, people.
yeah. But yeah, we paid everyone, and I advise that you do the same if you want to work with like a larger team.
Exactly. So again, if you can, we're mainly talking to the executives that don't want to pay their artists. What? Pay your artists, for
Yeah,
God's sakes.
yeah. Just anyone, just pay.
Just pay.
Tell me what's wrong, tell me sparks in motion. Sing me a song, tell me your eyes can go open. Show me it all, pick me up in the car you drove when you used to call. Show me it all.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. If this is your first time listening, I greatly do appreciate it. It was really cool to get to talk to Georden. I mean, it genuinely was. Georden, if you've got to this point, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It was an absolute blast and really insightful to get kind of what you've gone through and how you got to the point to where you are right now, doing incredible stuff up to this day. And I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to sit down and chat. It's a conversation like this one that I'm so glad I got to have, because it's the conversations and the stories like these that I want to make sure you guys get a chance to listen to. Obviously, not every single artist is going to go through the same trials and tribulations that get them to be where they are. They're not going to deal with the same kind of people, or they're not going to deal with the same exact people. They're not going to deal with the same exact obstacles and such. But, I feel like in every artist's life, they have to come over, or they have to, what's the word I'm looking for? They have to overcome some sort of obstacle, some sort of hurdle. And it's never easy. I mean, I've talked to so many artists on this podcast, and obviously each and every single one has their own struggle in some form or fashion, whether it be outside forces that are working against them, whether it be friends and coworkers that change and evolve on their own pace, or whether it be something that happens within them that they have to overcome. Every single artist that I talk to has some form of struggle in one form or fashion. Hell, me not being as much of an artist as some of these people, but being an artist in my own right, I have my own struggles. I deal with my own stuff, Hell, I've been very open about the stuff that I get to struggle, the things that I do struggle with on a day-to-day basis. But I'm glad to hear stories like Georden's, to where despite everything being thrown his way, despite the fact that there was a certain point where he didn't know if he loved art anymore, he's able to come out of it the other side and do some incredible stuff like Port by the Sea, which if you guys have not watched, I highly encourage you to. It's wonderful, it is lovely, it has a good charm to it, and I cannot get enough of it personally. I'm hoping that this story and other stories that I've had on the podcast, it'll let you guys know that no matter what you go through, no matter what gets thrown your direction, no matter what tries to hold you back or tries to stunt you in your path, don't let that stop the love and passion being shown first and foremost. Don't let your love and your passion, your emotions, your blood, sweat, tears that you put into this stuff, don't let that be stunted by obstacles such as what we were able to talk about. It may not it may not be executed fully. It may not come out exactly as you envision it, but all that matters is that you get a chance to do it. Whatever it is that you love, whatever it is that you feel passionate about. Don't let anything stop you, okay? Because you guys are doing phenomenal work, and I cannot wait to see what you guys are going to be doing from here on out. So keep up the incredible work, keep up that love and support, and just keep doing incredible things.